Let's talk about hiking poles, also known as trekking poles. The question that everyone asks, the answer is yes. Use 2 poles all the time on every hike with very few exceptions. We're going to cover in this presentation why you should use them, how to use them in particular, a lot of detail, and which ones to get. First of all, why? Well, if you're walking along sidewalks or nice even trails, it's not so important. But if you're hiking in rugged territory, lots of rocks, perhaps a river bottom where you're hopping from one rock to another, then you need some help with the balance, and you all know that tripod is the most stable way of doing that. One pole or 1 foot is always moving, so with 2 feet and 2 poles, you're going to maintain your balance a lot better. It helps you to hike more efficiently. To do this, you need 2 poles, and it has been shown that using poles helps you hike better with less perception of effort. It reduces the impact on your knees, especially downhill. We'll talk about that a little bit more later. And the workload is shared by the upper body. Your legs aren't doing all the work if you use them properly. And it avoids the swelling in your hands that you get if you just let them dangle, especially in hot weather, because your arms are moving and blood is flowing and the plasma is not accumulating in your hands, causing the edema. However, to do all these 3 or 4 benefits or 5 benefits, you need to use them properly. So how to use them? Well, first of all, you got to adjust the height properly. As shown in this diagram, this photo, adjust the height so your hand is about level with your elbow, your forearm is parallel with the ground. Now, if you're doing a lot of very steep uphill or long steep downhill, you can adjust the length of the pole by, say, 5 centimeters, 6 inches, one way or the other. As you adjust the pole, you need to make sure that the pole, each section of the pole is about the same length. This provides the greatest strength. Don't have one all the way out, another section all the way in. Adjust the wrist straps. You must use the wrist straps to get the benefit of the poles as I discuss in this presentation. The straps are to help you avoid wasting energy gripping the handle. You can grip the handle at a natural 90-degree angle, get your hand through the strap and holding onto the pole as shown. This, if you look at the bottom right-hand picture, this shows the strap me able to force down with the strap rather than the grip. This saves you a fair bit of energy. You can just let go if you need your hands to grab on hold of something. The poles will then just dangle on your wrists. And this also enables you to pivot the pole when you're going downhill, as explained in the section a little later. So if I'm pushing down at about 20 degrees, I can get about a 20-30 pound push. Many of you won't get quite that much, but it doesn't matter. The fact is that with a 30-pound push, 28 is down and 10 pounds is forward. Now the downward component of the push means that there is less load on my legs. My arms are supporting my body for a little bit on every stride. So if you got 10,000 steps on, say, a 3-mile hike, that's about 15% less effort on the legs. This enables you to go further for longer with less tiring. The forward component of the push means you're going faster for the same effort or less effort for the same speed. You can also, in your arms, when you're using the poles, there's 3 main joints. There's the shoulder joint, when the whole arm is moving as a unit. Your wrist and elbow don't move much. You're using the rear deltoids and the trapezius to get most of the force. The elbow joint, the upper arm is stationary and the wrist doesn't move much. This uses the tricep muscles. And then the wrist joint, the upper and lower arm are stationary and your wrist is moving. This uses your wrist flexors. Now, which joint action you use, as we'll illustrate, depends on the gradient, or it could change if one muscle group starts getting really tired. You can use the other. So how do you use, which one do you use first? On level ground, push down and back, level or a little bit up or a little bit down, not steep. Pole tips are level with your feet or behind your feet, alternating with stride. This is mostly a shoulder joint movement, as illustrated here. Here I'm pushing down and back, and watch where the pole tips are. Let me show you that again. The pole tips are never in front of my feet. Pushing down and back is how you move along. This is the action illustrated in a little animation. Okay, now when you go in harder, the same thing applies. You're pushing down and back. The toe tips are behind your feet. There's no point putting tips in front of your feet. That's going to push you backwards. Alternating with stride. But now, instead of the shoulder action, you're using an elbow action, especially as the trail gets steeper. It gives you more force and is a really good way of getting up steep sections, as illustrated here. If I'm going up a 30-degree gradient and I still got my 30-pound push, then I'm now getting 17 pounds of that uphill. Let me show you that one more time. Upper arm stationary, the elbows are doing the pushing. And it's this action. In slow motion. Now, if you're going up some steps or some rocks that look like steps, you push down hard, but you push longer. The back pole stays down until the center of gravity is over the step, and it's mostly an elbow joint, but it's fully extended. See how the poles stay down until my body is up above the step. Now, when you're going downhill, this is the only time the poles should be in front of your feet. They're always braking and absorbing the shock on your knees, and one pole is on the ground at all times so that if you slip, then you've got some chance of preventing yourself sliding all the way down on your backside. Alternating poles again, unless you're going down a step, which we'll illustrate here in just a minute. It's a wrist joint action. Essentially, you're walking the poles in front of you, and your stride is short. Look how the wrists are moving. Arms moving a little bit too, but the poles are being walked in front of me. One more time. It's a wrist action. Pole tips are staying in front pretty much the whole time. Now, when you're going down a step, this is one of the few times when both poles are going down at one time. Your arms are pushing down and you're slowly lowering your body as you go down. If you do this, it minimizes a shock on the knees, and consumer reports show that if you want to avoid joint replacements, then using trekking poles is the best way of doing that. Watch here, both poles go down, pushing down and lowering myself down as I go down. Lower down. Regards to safety of poles, it's similar to insurance guys will always say if you're in a rear-end collision, it's always the fault of the car behind. Similarly, when you're hiking in a group with people using poles and you're in a line, stay well out of reach of any poles in front of you. You stay back. It's your responsibility not to get poked. Don't point poles at people. Don't use poles when lightning might be around. And never ever let a pole get between your legs, because sooner or later you will trip. So when you're looking for poles to buy, what features are essential? I think you must have a strap, you must have adjustability in the length of the pole. It's nice if you can get some shock absorbing features in the pole, or you can get some sweat absorbing handles. If they're extra light or you have a camera mount on top, that's just bonus. There's all sorts of different locking mechanisms. The twist clutch lock is the one that fails most frequently. I like the lever lock. The twist is probably the cheapest. Aluminum or carbon fiber. Carbon fiber, again, more expensive. And how many sections? Well, you can go with ski poles. They're not adjustable, but that's one section. You can have poles with 2, 3, or 4. The fewer sections is stronger, but more sections means you can pack them up shorter, go in your backpack or your case. Handles can be cork, rubber, plastic, or foam. Cork are probably the best, but also the more expensive. The tips can be carbide or steel, depending on how much you want them to wear. Rubber tips often come with the poles. Useful for hiking along sidewalks or paved city trails, for example. And then there are baskets that often come with them that are removable, that you can use if you're in soft sand, soft soil, or snow. You can spend a lot of money on poles, or you can spend a lot less money. Personally, poles mostly fail when you bend them from falling on them or from getting them trapped in a crack or something. And so I believe that buying the cheapest you can find is probably the best way. I can make a cheap pair of poles last 2, 3, 4 years, and so I can get a lot of poles for the price of one expensive pair. Now, if you're getting tired and you want a little rest, you can use your pole as a seat. If you don't have any poles, you can't do that. It's inadvisable to do with one pole, and so to reiterate again, you must have 2 poles.